Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's coaching webinar. I have both myself, Tim Mai, as well as Stan Malden on the line with us. Stan?
Hey, Tim, how are you?
Doing good. All right. Okay, we have Conrad on the line. Hello, Conrad. Hello, Gilda. Hello, Julio. Hello, Casey. Hello, Maria. Hello, Mark. Mark Fennell and Mark Hammer. Hello, both of you guys. And hello, Neil. You're coming on. And there's going to be more people coming on here. But we're going to go ahead and get started today. And you know, Stan and I was just talking because we had a webinar with some of the apprentice students yesterday, and some of the questions that came up were pretty basic. And we're like, you know what? If these students are still asking these basic questions, I bet you there's a lot of people out there still asking these, still have these very basic questions that hasn't been answered. So let's just call this webinar a real estate investing 101, and let's go back to the basics and talk about what happens in the beginning. And this, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about are things that a lot of stuff we're talking about are things that sort of like, what do you do the very first week of your real estate investing business? Okay, what you must know and what you must do, and anytime you feel lost, just go back and watch this webinar over and over again. So. Is that pretty much, does that help set the tone there, Stan, for what we're going to talk about tonight?
That's really set the tone. And as I'm working, the more advanced that I get, the more that I forget the fundamentals. And then when I notice that things aren't going the way they should be going, I just need to go back and just do the basics. That's where you have to be all the time.
Right. That's, yep. And yes, and we I think all of us sort of fall into that. Like I know for myself, a lot of things that I wonder, like, why aren't people getting this? I mean, this is like so easy. Why aren't they getting this? I forget what it was like. I forgot what it was like on my very first offer. The very first time I made an offer on a house. Okay, this was when I was recently laid off. I was still in Dallas at that time, and I know that the seller was going through a divorce, and so they wanted to sell their house, and I was just so freaked out about how to make an offer on that house, and I mean, it's I was like, what contract do I use? What form do I use? Oh my God, the contract is so long. It's 8 pages, and there's so many texts. I can't deal with all of these texts. I don't even understand these things. And it's like, what contract do I use? And I was like, you know what? I know Office Depot sells some real estate contracts. If they sell Office Depot, and Office Depot is a big, it's a big company, that means it must be okay for me to use. So I went to Office Depot. I paid like $39 or something like that. Bought their real estate contracts. It's like 2 pages. I was like, oh, okay, this is easy enough. It's only 2 pages. I can deal with this. And so, I mean, I was just like so scared about the entire process to make that first offer. And luckily I found the courage and make that first offer, and I didn't end up getting that deal, but going through that process, just making that very first offer, forget about a contract. It wasn't even a contract. It was just the first offer. Just going through that process was an amazing experience, and I've gone so far past that that stage. That I forgot what it was like in the beginning. I forgot what it was like to not understand these little basic stuff. And so that's our goal for today is making sure that Stan and I are bringing it back down to the basics for you guys, so that way if you never made an offer before, and you can kind of imagine what I went through when I made my first offer, and you might feel that way about making your first call to a seller here. do share with us, and don't worry if one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest reasons why investors and why I find my students not being able to get over these basic things is because they think it's like dumb questions, or they think like these are like way basic questions that they don't dare to ask. And that's a very very uh, uh, you know bad way to think about it. Stan and I are here as a coach for you, and so there is really no such thing as a dumb question. A dumb question is a question that's not being asked at all, and you walk away from this webinar and still don't know the answer to it. Okay, that's a dumb question. Other than that, it's all fair game. There's no such thing as a dumb question, and there's no such thing that a question is too basic. And just feel free to ask. It doesn't matter how basic it is. Just feel free to ask. Sometimes I talk to students, and I mean, the questions they ask are like really, really simple things, and like I'll give you an example, and I'll pick on Julio for today, because Julio's from Canada. And some of his questions are not only that it's so basic that anybody in the U.S. would know about them, but because he's from Canada, he doesn't know anything about the terminology and about some of the ways we buy and sell houses. And so, like, sometimes I have a hard time. It's like, wow, these are like really basic questions, but I'm so glad that he asked those questions, because if he doesn't ask them, I have no clue. I would just assume that he knows all of that. I don't know about you, Stan, but like when I teach, here's my assumption. My assumption is that everybody on this call already own a house and already bought a house with a mortgage on it, so they know what the closing process was like.
Right.
That is like my assumption. But that's a really wrong assumption, because a lot of people on the call might not have went through that. So we want to remove those kind of assumptions and getting it back down to as basic as we can. And so we need your help. We're going to try to explain it to you as basic as we could possibly remember. We can't go as far back as when I first came to when I first came to America, when Stan was still in his diapers, but but we'll try to keep as basic as possible. So there you have it, Stan. I'll let you go from then on.
Like you, okay. So for those of you who think that you have some questions that you just are afraid to ask, I was asking Tim the other day we talked to each other on Skype, and I said, Tim, I've got these issues with this closing, and I've got this going on and this going on. I just don't know what to do. And Tim Skypes back, well, why don't you just call them and see if you can work it out? It's like, duh, that was like of course, so I just picked up the phone and fixed it. It's real simple. Real simple, just sometimes you have to step backwards to see the forest.
Right.
Well, the number one thing we're doing here is we're buying and selling houses without using any of our own money. So we're wholesaling houses. So for the apprentice group, one of our rules is never use your own cash. And then if somebody asks you to put up a bunch of money or to buy something or use your own money for something, then just go back and revisit rule number 1, okay? So we are buying and selling houses and not using any of our own money. That's what the Tim My system is of wholesaling, okay? And it works, and it does really, really well.
Right.
Go ahead.
And make sure you mention to them too about, because a lot of people have heard about no money down deal, and so make sure you explain a little bit more about, well, how is it that we are able to buy houses houses that are worth $100,000, $200,000 with no money, with none of our own money.
Right. So what we would do is, let's say we're going to wholesale a house. We have a house that's worth about $100,000, and the seller will take $80,000 for it. We would get it under a flex option, and then from there we would market the house and find a buyer, and then the buyer would buy that house, and then we would relinquish our rights to that. There's 3 or 4 ways we can do that, but basically we would take our rights we would not have any rights on the house anymore. We'd sell our rights basically, and that's how we get paid. Okay, now say that. Can you say that like cleaner than me, Tim?
Uh-huh.
Say that cleaner than what I just said.
Well, you know, buying houses with no money down or never use your own money is just simply the best way to think about it is that we're not really buying houses. Okay, the legal process of it is that we control houses and then we resell them, and sometimes we do buy them and then immediately resell them, but let's take the legality part of it out, okay, and just think of it as playing matchmaking. And so we found a seller, and we're going to find a buyer, and the buyer's going to use their money, or they're going to borrow money to buy that house. But because we are only a matchmaker, we're not going to use any of our own money. Okay, we're just going to put the seller and the buyer together, and the buyer's going to use their own money, and that's how we make our money. Now, of course, for legal purposes, the way we structured the transaction, we're not just a matchmaker, but just for the sake of easy for you to understand and the way we're explaining it, just think of yourself as a matchmaker.
Right, and Neil's asking what contracts do we use? We use the state-approved contract, and then we also use contracts off of due deals. We also use the flex options off of due deals as well. So that's how we control the property.
Yeah, and just so you know, it's. I mean, if you're asking the question of, okay, so what contracts do we use that tells me that you're pretty new at this, and so if you're new at this, just start with the flex option and don't think about any other contract right now. Just start with the flex option. It's the easiest one for you to use. Okay. Now, once you find a buyer, then get back with us, and we'll tell you what contracts you need to convert that flex option into, and you worry about that later. But the first step of it all, because the truth is, if you don't have a seller or you don't have a buyer, you don't have two parties involved at the same time, it really doesn't matter what contract you use or what contract you have, because it's irrelevant. You can't play matchmaking when you don't have the seller and the buyer. So in the beginning, when you don't have either one of those parties, or when you only have one party, then just use a flex option for now. All right, so use a flex option to control a property with a seller, and then when you found a buyer, then that's the second step of it. Then then you let Stan and I know, and we'll help you further. So that's like I said, we want to take it down to the really basics, and we're gonna avoid complicating things here and avoid confusing you with different contracts, is because to answer the right, to give you the right answer what contract to use, it's greatly dependent on, well, what type of deal is it? And so a more general basic answer for you is just use a flex option for now. If you're not sure, just use a flex option.
So, the most basic thing, and I'll just remember back, Tim, to where you started me on this. Tim told me the very first day, he said, go to due deals, go to motivated sellers, and go to the very last page. It was like page 20-something back a couple of years ago. And I want you to start calling motivated sellers and just see if they want to, just talk to them on the phone and just talk to them about their house. And see if you can make 50 of those phone calls a day. Now, that's how I started, and I was afraid of the phone, and so basically by being on the phone every day and you made me do that for like 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks, quite a while.
Right.
And by making me do that, first off, I got some deals out of it, but more than anything is I became less afraid of the phone, to the point where I don't mind picking up the phone now and making those calls. So the number one thing for you guys is brand new. This is the number one thing you'd want to do is get back on the phone. And I think that's the number one thing I would recommend for you. So that's number 3 on my list. And number 4 is listen to that yes I can voice in your head. And Tim has been talking about on Happy Hour television in the mornings about the 2 voices in your head, and you choose to listen to one or the other. And the only reason I made those phone calls, Tim, is because you told me to do it and you expected me to do it. And honestly, that's the only reason I did it. Because there for about a week, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I was just going off on blind faith, and actually honed my craft a little bit better as the more I went. You know what I mean? I just practiced and got better.
Right. And you know, and that is the beginnings part. You know, a lot of people um, um, ask me, you know, Tim, what's the first thing I need to do? What's the first thing I need to do in real estate investing? And I said, well, the first thing you need to do is pick up the phone and talk to somebody. You're playing matchmaking. What's the first thing you need to do to play matchmaking? You talk to somebody. You talk to somebody who wants to be matchmake. Okay, I mean, if you know, if I'm a matchmaker, I'm not gonna call stand up and try to match him with a mate. He already has one. Bobby's gonna beat me up, right? So the first thing you want to do is go find somebody that wants to wants to be matchmake. So somebody who has a house for sale, and or somebody who's looking for a house to buy, okay, and contact them up. Right? So same thing, right? If you're a matchmaker, what's the first thing you would do? Well, the first thing you would do is, you would either ask around all of your friends and family and neighbors to see, who's looking for a date, who's looking for a mate, and then from there, if you can't find anybody from your network, then you go look for people who have singles ad, right? People who post ads and looking for a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and then you contact those people and you tell them about your dating service or your matchmaking service, and then you matchmake them. So same thing in real estate. The first thing we need to do in our matchmaking business is contact these sellers, because we know these sellers wants to find a buyer for their home. Otherwise, they wouldn't have listed their home for sale. Okay, and so that's the first step, is to talk to sellers and talk to as many as you can. And in the beginning, when you first talk to them, don't even try to get a deal out of it. Just have it in your mind that you're just practicing. This is nothing more than a practice. It's a test. Okay, and just practice making calls. Just practice talking to sellers and find out what their situation is. Find out how you can help them and do your best to help them. Okay, you don't need to know the answers. And if the sellers ask you a question that you don't know, just say, "That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I can ask one of my business associates and get back with you." Okay, just be honest with them, and it's okay if you have to tell them that. Well, you know what? I'm brand new at this, but I'm hungry, and I'm excited to help you with whatever I can, and so I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help you get rid of this house and get that behind you so you can move on with your life. Okay, and so the most important thing about business, okay, and this is not just real estate business, but any business in general, is just be sincere. Just be sincere, and come with the mindset of helping people, of wanting to be of service and to bring value to people, and that's it. That's the first step of it all, which leads right on to Stan's number 4. Make every call a winner. And if you think about it, if your call is just a test, okay, and your sole purpose is to talk to them about their house, just to practice, what do you have to lose? Nothing. I mean, the worst they can say to you is, "My house is already sold," or it's no longer for sale. Okay, and either way, you got yourself a good practice call for that time. And so think about it from that perspective. Okay, think about it from that perspective, and just start calling. Just close your eyes. You don't need to worry about whether or not you're doing this right or wrong. There is no right or wrong way of doing it. Just do it. It's just a practice. It's just calling them, asking them, can you tell me about your property? 3-bedroom, 2-bath, whatever, 1,500 square feet, whatever they're willing to share with you. Just let them share with you. Make some of those calls and get used to that. It's really funny, Stan. When in the beginning, when I had my nephew do this,
Mm-hmm.
and he was reading off of the seller's questionnaire. I mean, it's so obvious that he was reading. It was word. I mean, it's like, hi, I am calling about your house for sale. It's so hilarious. At that time when he first made his call, I think he was like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. And the seller gave him all the information. I was just laughing inside because I didn't want to tell him that he's doing it wrong, because that discourages him, and so I just let him do his thing. And it's just so funny that even though you're just reading word for word like that, sellers still answer to you and still give you the information you need.
Oh, that's very cool. That's what we've talked about my son Christopher doing the exact same thing as that. Can you tell me about your house for sale? And it's like, Christopher, what were you doing? And then he gets to the end, and my son's a musician. He's like, wow, that's far out cool, man. Oh my gosh. Yo, dog, sounds like, he said this to one lady. He says, yo, dog, that sounds like a nice house. Yo, dog, what was that? He got the flex option on it too. That was really weird. So
right, and I mean, it's just so true, and I just think about how I was, how I was over at your house and try to learn how to play drum, and as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4 is, right? I was struggling to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like, it's funny, and I bet you and Christopher were like laughing inside, but that's how it is in the beginning, and folks, it's okay. It's okay. That's where it all starts. That's how we all started.
Absolutely.
We none of us started knowing how to do these stuff. Okay, none of us. And when I first got started, not only I was concerned with what to say, I was concerned making sure that people could understand me because of my accent. And so, and so you just got to do it. Just get practice, and the more and more you do it, the more practice you get, the better you get at it. That's just the I don't know, nature's law. I mean, I don't know if there's an actual law that says when you do it enough, it becomes second nature to you. But but it's nature's law anyways, right?
Right. And then my wife would say to me, she'd say, Stan, when you're playing golf, how many balls do you go get? I said, well, I get a big bucket full of balls to go out and do at the driving range. And she said, okay, so you took this bucket of balls, you got the first one, and you like hit it way out of bounds. So what'd you do? Take your balls back and get in the car and leave? It's like, no, I kept playing. I kept working on it. Well, then why do you keep hanging up the phone?
Right.
Go back in there. Get after it again. So.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point. And that's probably the reason why a lot of people don't get off the phone, is that if they would charge on these, let's say if I'm gonna give you, let's say and I'll since Stan is unmute here, I'll just play this role with him. But this is applicable to any of you. Rather than telling you, okay, go on dodeals.com and call all of those leads, they're all free for you. If instead I say, okay, I'm gonna charge you $10 for each of these phone numbers. Okay, I'm gonna charge you $10 for each of phone numbers. And if you call 100 of these phone numbers, you're bound to get a flex option, at least one flex option on the deal. Okay, and so 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 when I charge you money like that, right? $10 each phone number times 100 phone numbers, that's $1,000. Then you would not just call one seller and throw the rest of the phone numbers away, right? You would keep on calling until you get your first deal. And very very similar to what Stan's talking about with the bucket of golf balls. I mean, you already pay for it. You're not going to hit one ball and pack up. You already pay for the whole bucket, so you might as well utilize it. And so sometimes that's what you need to do is maybe you don't have to pay me for those leads, but take out $1,000 and go donate it somewhere and said, I just bought 100 leads off of Due Deals, and I'm putting that $1,000 to, I don't know, American Red Cross or whatever, and think about it from that perspective, or however you need to trick your mind to realize the value in those leads. And that's one of the things that sometimes I think twice about how I provide leads on DueDeals.com for so inexpensively, is that people just don't value it anymore when it's so inexpensive, and that's really that's a wrong way of looking at these leads. These leads, even though they don't cost you much, but they're very valuable. So. It wasn't like when I first got started, and in order for me to get leads, I have to go out there, put out signs. In order for me to get leads, I have to, pay for it and go knock on doors or send out direct mail. It cost me a lot of money to get leads back then. And so you guys are having it really easy right now, and so you got to trick yourself not to what is the word I'm looking for, Stan?
Well, you've just got to be confident in making those leads go work for you.
Right. Just because they're inexpensive and they're on DueDeals.com doesn't mean that they don't have value or they don't have much value. They have a lot of value. Okay.
Well, you've proven that on the last couple of Thursdays that you made those calls, right? You started at the beginning of the list and you called what, 10 or 12 people both Thursdays?
Right. Yeah, I didn't do anything more, and for the whole call, the call was an hour, but I made calls for less than an hour, and so, the leads are good. You just got to call on them.
Right. Absolutely. Well, from there, I kind of think that 6 and 8 are kind of the same. You want to work in real estate like somebody's paying you, and would you work your job the same way that some of us work real estate? And you can tell that the first out of the first 8, 6 or 7 of the first 8 are just taking action. And a lot of this is just get started. And once you get started, and if you get started every day, it gets to where every day that it'll go smoother for you. But the first couple of days, you just have to get going and use your energy and use that excitement that you have to get started. And then after a while, it's a habit. And I'm in my chair at 8 o'clock every day. That's just the way it is. That's just the way I learned, and I'm listening to Tim every morning at 8. That's just the way it goes.
Right. And I don't know if you mentioned number 5 there, Stan, but I'll mention it anyways. One of the questions I hear often is, Tim, there's so many different strategies out there, different ways to make money out there with real estate, and which one do I go with? Okay, and yes, there are a lot of them. And so if as a new real estate investor, the best thing to do is just get started with these flex option strategies that I teach you. You can get flex options on owner financing homes and sell those, or you can get flex options on wholesale deals, on cheap cash ugly houses type deals and sell those. And so either one of those strategies are fine. And the point being is that just get started. Just get your first flex option and start marketing it to find a buyer, because that's where you're going to gain most of your experience and gain most of your knowledge, is through those implementation.
Absolutely. And then once you get going and you're making calls, we're working with flex options almost exclusively, and that's what we're using to as our interest in the property. So I just call it flex option is the best option, but guys, you got to follow up on those and get those to come back. So, Tim, you want to talk a little bit about following up and using that time?
Right. Just like just like a lot of people who procrastinate. And some of us might be guilty of this. Just like how we procrastinate, sellers procrastinate too. Okay? Sellers procrastinate too. And so when you talk to them over the phone, they say, "Yes, yes, I'll sign the flex option." But then after you follow up with them, they just won't get it to you, or they say, "Well, I'll do it later," or whatever the case might be. The you know the best way the best way for you to get them to sign a flex option is just go and meet up with them at the property if it's in your local area. Okay. And so just say, well, can I meet up with you to go look at the property so I can take some pictures? And so when you're there taking pictures, what happens is that a lot of these sellers, when you talk to them over the phone, they don't know you yet. And when they don't know you yet, they don't trust you yet. Okay. And so that's why they are reluctant to do business with you and to sign this flex option and get it back to you. But when you go and meet up with them, you give them that opportunity to see you, to see who you are, and to see that you are the real thing. You're like Coca-Cola, right? The real thing. and
Hmm.
um, and when they see you, they'll trust you, and they'll sign the flex option while you're there. Okay, so that's like the best way to get a flex option back is just go meet up with them, and it's a good experience for you to go check out the house, take pictures of everything, crawl up to the attic. If there's a basement, go down to the basement. Take pictures of every single little thing that you can find. Take 100 pictures, and 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 use that as a learning experience. You use that as a learning experience so that way you know what a house looks like, what a roof looks like, what a kitchen looks like, what a living room looks like. It's funny how real estate agents show houses. They go, here's the living room, this is the kitchen. Like we don't like we don't already know what those things are. but uh, but just act like a real estate agent, and just act like you're a little 5-year-old and just curious about everything, and take pictures of everything. Good learning experience for you. So that's a really that's a good tip for you when it's in your local market area. And if it's not in your local market area, let's say you're investing virtually like Julio is doing. What you might want to do is just when you talk to the sellers, share ask them about something personal, and share something personal with them. Try to find a common ground, like perhaps sports that they might like, to what their hobbies are. Find something that will allow you to build that trust with them. Okay, and if you hear a dog barking in the background, you're like, wow, you have a dog? What kind is he, or what kind is she? Okay, or little things like that. Just like be really curious about them as a person and their personal lives, because those are the little things you can use to build rapport with them, to build trust. And you know, and I mean, if you want to, if you're a family guy, you definitely can even, and you don't even have to be a family guy to do this, but you certainly can send them an email with a picture of you, okay, a picture of you in front of a house, or a picture of you with some seller, a picture of something where they can see you and they're like, oh, okay, this is a real person. This is not just somebody from Nigeria trying to scare me and want me to send $1 million into the bank account. Okay. And so now I have nothing against Nigeria or anything. I'm just making fun of those emails, scams that get sent out. And yeah, and so the point being is that the best way to get a flex option back is to make sure that that person had liked you and trust you. Because if they don't like you and trust you yet, then that's the main reason why they're not getting it back to you. Okay, and so follow up with them, until they have enough time to establish that trust with you, or you had enough time to establish that trust with them. So.
You know, Tim, as I'm talking to people on the phone, and you hear a child in the background, they always want to talk about their kids, always. And I always ask them about their kids if I hear a child in the background. And that's just an easy way to get to where we know each other better.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
exactly. When you hear anything, definitely, pay attention to those little things. Very, very important. Remember, when you're calling them, don't call with the mindset of, I'm going to make money on this deal, or I'm going to try to turn this into a deal. Don't call from that mindset. Call from a more compassionate mindset. A more helpful mindset. It's like, you know what, this seller is going through some challenges right now. They're trying to sell their house, and they probably are having a hard time selling it. I'm just going to be a nice person. I'm going to pretend like this is my next door neighbor, that I really care about this person, and I want to call and ask them, about how they are doing with selling their homes, and what some of the challenges are, and learning more about their house, and see how I can help them. So when you first calling them, it's not to try to buy the house. When you're first calling them, is to find out what challenges they are having, so that way you know how to help them. And so that's a very, very important thing that you must remember. You are a solution provider, and you make money by providing a solution. You are a real estate doctor, and so you can't fix somebody's problem without first knowing. Could you imagine if I was a doctor and Stan come to me, and before even asking Stan, well, what brought you here? Like, how are you feeling? Why would you come to a doctor? I just says, well, Stan, take these medicine and pay me $1,000 and go home. Right? You can't do that. I can't expect Stan to pay me $1,000 and take those medicines when I haven't even found out what's wrong with him yet. Okay, so before I can offer Stan any kind of solution, before I can offer Stan any kind of medication, even if it's just like painkillers like Advil, well, what if he's not experiencing any pain? What if he's just vomiting and he doesn't have any fever? So even though painkillers is very generic, and this is kind of funny, Stan, but like in when I was young in Vietnam, anytime that one of us like gets sick or feel sick, the first thing my parents would try to give us is give us Tylenol, because it came from America, and so they think Tylenol cures everything. This is like ages ago. They didn't know any better, but they just assumed, well, Tylenol's from America, must cures everything.
oh my God.
That's not how, Tylenol does not cure everything, and that's not how you do it. You got to find out what the problem is, and you can't know what the problem is until you open your mouth and ask them. Okay? So.
Tim, we were talking about focusing on one thing, and the apprentice group, their focus right now is on owner financing deals.
Right.
And I asked Christine, I was in Chicago this week, as you know, and Christine and I were together for a day. And I said, Christine, if you saw $1 on the ground, would you pick it up? And the answer, of course, is yes. It's like, well, if you got out at the mall and you saw a quarter laying right there by your door, would you get it? Sure, I'd pick it up. I said, okay, so the government's giving you $8,000 for every house that you have. It's just free money. So just go out and pick it up.
Right.
So talk about the owner financing deal some, if you want to, a little bit about that.
You want me to talk about it? Or
Sure.
Well, okay.
You're way funnier than I am.
You were already on the roll. I figured you might as well take this on. You're the real estate expert now.
Yeah, right.
I was You know, it's really true. I was sharing, yeah, I was sharing this with some of the students, and I said, you know what? I mean, you know, now that I'm more focused in fine tuning my business and working with this happy hour TV, you know, it's Stan that's out there doing most of these deals, and so you know, so Stan, Stan has a much um, um, better knowledge of today's real estate, and he would be a much better fit to answer real estate questions than I am. So, so from now on, if there's any real estate question, go ask Dan. Don't ask Tim anymore.
No, that just means I get my hands dirty. It's not a big deal.
But all right, let me see here. The Okay, so the $8,000 grant program goes like this. Okay, the $8,000 grant program goes like this. The you know, and specifically with the owner financing, you know, in the beginning, the $8,000 tax grant program was for first-time home buyers, and a lot of people thought that it was only applicable if they got an FHA loan. I think it kind of started out that way, and then it turns out that it's for any type of loan, regardless whether it's FHA or not. And then we also learned that it's also applicable for owner financing and contract for deed. Okay, and so yeah, owner financing and contract for deed, and so that's when we're like, well, that's great because owner financing deals are very easy to find. And we, even before this $8,000 tax credit, we were doing plenty of owner financing deals. We were doing plenty of the owner financing deals, and so, so now with the $8,000 grant on top of that, that's like gravy for us, And it made what we were doing with owner financing deals just much better, just even much better. And so that's what we did. We went out and took advantage of that, and start to structure owner financing deals where we get the seller to agree to sell the house on a owner financing. Here in Texas, it's more specific to wraparound mortgage, but in most of the states, you would be using a contract for deed instead. And contract for deed, wraparound mortgage, there are all types of owner financing, and they allow the seller to keep their existing loan in place, and the seller keep the existing loan in place, and then create a new note between the seller and the buyer. So basically, the flow of the money is that the buyer is going to pay the seller each month, and then the seller is going to pay the mortgage company, and whatever the difference is, they get to keep as their cash flow. Okay. So that's I guess 15 seconds of what owner financing is, and yeah, and so when we learn about this $8,000 tax credit, and that whenever we find these buyers, and if the buyers qualify for it, if they haven't bought a house in the last 3 years, then they can qualify for up to $8,000. So then we structure it to where whatever money the buyer has to put as a down payment, we then give that to the seller, and we apply for this $8,000 tax credit, and we get to keep the $8,000 tax credit as our fee. Okay, keep the $8,000 tax credit as our fee, and so that's pretty much how we make how we make money on these deals. So.
Yes, that's pretty simple. Let me show. I can show everybody one of these. I just got one sent in the mail today. So let me go on this. Let me get you off and paused. Here's a house that we did not long ago, and it just got funded here. So as you can see, well, let me go to the contract. Let me make this a little easier. Here's the contract on the house. Let's see what you guys are seeing. Basically, this is just a TREC contract. You can see from the numbers on the house. See, the numbers on the house are right here. We sold the house for 119, including the tax credit. They put 10,000 down, so they put 2,000 of their own money plus 10,000 plus $8,000 tax credit. This is what they're going to owner finance. Now they're financing that with the seller through a wraparound mortgage. Okay, Tim, and holler at me if I go too fast or skip something. Okay, so basically what I wanted to do was make sure that the seller's payments got made. So I worked a loan so that they were paying about 7.5%, and with taxes and insurance, it comes out to be about $1,000 a month is where we are on this. So anyhow, they bought this house using the $8,000 tax credit, and the way that we did it on this particular HUD is that we showed the tax credit on the HUD paid outside of closing, and that's where we are here. And that turned out real well. That was a credit and a debit on both sides. So that's how that turned out, and it worked out real well for both, and everybody's happy about it, and it turned out great. Okay, so there's no fees over here for us or anything. We're getting our 8,000 from the tax credit, and we're doing that outside of closing. Okay, Tim, you have questions or answers about any of this?
I don't, but maybe maybe somebody on the call might. Anybody
Okay.
have question about what Stan's going through so far? He's going through a case study of a deal that we closed recently, and so so that way you can see how the flow of it. So,
The flow on this is kind of neat because the buyers got in with 30. That's 2,000 down plus $1,300, so they got in for $3,300. And the seller, it cost them $2,000 to sell it, but that's because we had all these taxes over here. If they had paid their taxes, it would have been okay. They would have made money on it, but they got to pay their taxes through closing, so it turned out okay, and everybody was happy on both sides of it. Okay, so then yeah, that's what one of these would look like. We've done them where the tax credit is on the HUD. We've done them with the tax credit not on the HUD. We've done them with 2 or 3 different ways, but that's what they look like. Okay, and that's what a contract would look like when you do one of those. Okay, so pretty simple thing. One of the questions is how many of these have we closed? And we've been doing about one of these a week or so, sometimes 2 a week. So that's about what we're doing down here. Okay. So Tim, hop in.
yeah, and then there's also another question too on let me see about whether or not VA is contributing anything on top of the $8,000 tax credit. I don't know. I'm not sure if VA is doing anything, but I'm just gonna assume not. This, I just know that this is just a program that's from the IRS, and it's for everybody. It's not generic. It's not specific to any type of loan from VA or FHA or anything like that.
Right. Mostly what we're doing is owner financing on these. Now, if we have a house that is sold with a loan, we can still do the $8,000 or the 10% tax credit, or we can still do that. But most of what we're doing now is owner financing deals, and it's just because with the market the way it is and with our economy the way it is, sellers are having a pretty tough time selling their house for retail. And so what we're doing is taking some people that are having a little more difficult time selling, and we're marrying them with people that have a little nick in their credit. So that's how we're getting these to work. Okay, so I'm sure the VA will loan on some of this and get the IRS money as well, but that would be like a new loan, right, Tim?
Right.
So,
okay. All right. And then I saw a question here on about Frank saying that he's in Colorado. When he does the lookup for wraparound mortgage and contract for deed, it says that the ownership does not get transferred. In a wraparound mortgage, the ownership does get transferred, and in a contract for deed, the deed doesn't get transferred. However, the contract for deed does get recorded, and so the IRS code said specifically that contract for deed is good. So there is a recording that's going to happen to show the interest that the buyer gets. Okay, on a wraparound mortgage, the buyer will actually get a warranty deed. On a contract for deed, they don't get a warranty deed yet, but they do get a recording of their contract for deed.
Right, and it'd be smart to go ahead and close those at a title company. So you have a HUD-1. They're starting to require a
Right.
HUD-1 now. They being the IRS, so that'd be a good way to get your HUD-1.
Right.
And the way we structure these for people that don't have a mortgage, we would just do it. We would just do a mortgage, or we have the title company attorney. We just have him create a mortgage for these houses. So if the house is owned free and clear, we would then have the title company attorney go and just create a mortgage for us.
Right. Okay, let me see here. Mark said, I understand the theory of the $8,000, but how do you get the actual dollars since it's a tax credit on someone else's return? It used to be a tax credit, Mark. It started out as a tax credit, but however, it's no longer a tax credit. It's like a grant. That's why we call it a grant. It's like a grant that the IRS is giving to the people. So they'll just send them a check, regardless whether or not they owed any money on their taxes. Well, actually, on your tax returns. But yeah, they just send you a check for it. It doesn't like get credited to your tax return or anything like that.
Yeah, what they've done is they've changed the word from tax credit to tax rebate.
Right.
And so we use the word grant because most people know what a grant is. And so when we use the word tax credit and rebate, that confuses some of our people. So we just chose not to use that. Tim says a grant's a way better word, and we use that a lot, and it works really well. So what we would do then is file the taxes. If we filed the 2008 taxes, we would then amend that return, and we have a CPA that would do that, and there's 3 or 4 other documents we send off with this. And then the IRS would then send back a check for 10% of the house. So if the house was sold for more than $80,000, it would be $8,000. If it was a $65,000 house, it'd be $6,500. Okay, and the way we're getting paid on these, there's a couple of ways to get paid on these. The money comes back to the CPA, then the CPA has the check. He has been sending that check to me. And then the buyer and I go down to the bank and we co-sign it, or he co-signs it, and then I put it into an account. So that's one way. Another way is to create a checking account together. We deposit it into that checking account, and then after the check clears the system, then I come in and close that account and take that money. So there's some ways to do that. And when you get to that point, when you're ready to start putting money in the bank, holler at us, and we'll tell you how to structure those.
Right. Okay. Let me see here. I don't see any obvious questions here if I missed somebody. If I apply my portion of the $8,000, $4,000, should I allow for a second with the new buyer if he cash flow? This would be done to help the deal get done between the seller and the buyer. Note would be 8 months. That's 500. Do you understand what Mark's question is?
No, not really, but I've got some comments on it. The note, you're saying the note could be 8 months at $500. What the IRS is, they're expecting people that get the $8,000 tax credit. They're expecting them to live in the house for 3 years. That doesn't mean they have to have a note for 3 years, but they have to live in the house for 3 years. So if you set up Mark, if you set up an 8-month balloon payment, that's okay, because the people, they have to live there. They're not, the note is not as big a deal as the amount of time where they stay there. But should I allow for a second with the new buyer? If you're saying that you're getting a second lien against the property, we've done that as well. And we've put a lien on the property so we protect our interest, and then we release that lien once we get our money. So, I mean, some of you guys, if you understand kind of what all that is.
All right. And let me see here.
Mark's saying that he contributed his portion to the down payment. The tricky part with doing that. Is
Well,
it?
sorry, Stan, but I think Mark, I think Mark doesn't realize that the $8,000 grant that we get, the IRS sends it to our CPA and we get that check. So it's not something that we get from the buyer. It's something, it's the whole $8,000, and so it's not coming out of the buyer's out of pocket money. So that's why we don't need to give them payment plan on it, because the check comes from the IRS. I think that's what he's trying to ask.
Okay.
Oh,
Could I repeat that?
He said that what if he contribute his portion of the $8,000 to the down payment? Well, you certainly can do that, but why? You could do it, but I guess if there's no other way to make the deal work but to do it that way, then you certainly can do that. However, I would try to negotiate with the seller to where I don't have to do that, where whatever the buyer has to put as a down payment will go to the seller, and so that way I can get this $8,000 grant. But yeah, when the buyer doesn't have enough down payment and the seller wants more money as a down payment, then yes, everything is up for negotiation, and you can structure it however you want.
Now, Lillian's asking about the $8,000 tax credit and how long we have to keep it in place and all that kind of thing. The government's requiring 36 months. You have to live in the house as your primary resident for 36 months. Okay? Now, you can leave before that, but then the government's going to come back and want their money back. So if you only live there 24 months, then the government would come find you and try to get some kind of a remedy for you for that $8,000. You're supposed to live there for 36 months. Okay, and Tim, I was talking to my son Matt yesterday. He lives in Boston, is going to school there, and his room and board is like $7,000 a semester. And it's like, Matt, we just need to buy you a house and use this $8,000 tax credit. But then he's got to live there for 3 years. So
right.
That's kind of the deal on that.
Man, that's pretty expensive. $7,000 for a semester.
Yeah, it's $30,000 a semester. It's Big Daddy's got to sell more houses.
Or teach him to sell some houses up there.
Yeah, you know those musicians. He's one of those lazy musicians. But he gets, his music gets played on BBC, so it's all good. He'll
right
someday.
Well, if he does rent a house instead of live in a dorm, he can actually have, he can do a small shows out of the house, so people can pay to come and see him on every weekend, because you can't do that at your dorm. So, renting a place might be better.
So you're thinking bigger than I am. I was just thinking, just get a house and he can rent it out to 4 or 5 guys and make the payments on it.
Well, that would work too. That would certainly work too.
So RC's asking about the due on sale clause. You want to hit that for him?
Well, don't worry about it for now. Just go get a deal started first. But yes, due on sale clause does exist. It is something that we need to be concerned about. A couple of things here. Number one, we have to disclose to both the sellers and the buyers about the due on sale and that it exists. Okay, and so we have to disclose that, and we make sure everybody knows about that. Now, the chance of the lender calling the loan due, I've heard it happen before. It never happened to me before. I heard it happen before. However, that chance is really slim. The chance is really slim. Like maybe, I don't know. I don't want to put any statistics, but I'll be surprised if it's like 1 in 100 deals. Okay, and when it does happen, then the buyer or the seller must be in a position to where they are able to refinance and and cash that lender out. And in today's market, where lenders have so many foreclosures, and so if this mortgage was made, was made on time and it's not late or anything, the chance of them foreclosing is really slim. So that's one part of talking about the due on sale clause. Now, of course, like I said, I mean that's just a chance that we all have to take. All right, that's a chance that we all have to take. And so let's say worst case scenario, and for me anyways, worst case scenario, if I run into one of these deals and the lender is now trying to call the loan due and the seller can't refinance, the buyer can't get a new loan, then I would be open to getting a new loan to make it work. And if I have to get a new loan to make it work, and now I become the new owner of it, I would negotiate with the seller and the buyer so that way, that way I'm safe, in that deal, and I would then structure so now I become the new seller, the new owner, and then structure an owner financing to that same buyer, and so that's so basically. For me, the worst case scenario is that I will come into the picture and I'll become the new owner of that property, okay, or the new seller of that property. So that's that is for me. For you might want to you might want to make sure that you help the buyer get the credit fixed up so that way. Within 6 months or even a year, that they are able to refinance and cash the seller out, so that way, either they cash the seller out before that loan is due, or that they are in the position to cash the seller out to get a new loan, if ever that loan is due. Okay, so so that's another way to do it. And then another way to do it is when you're dealing with other real estate investors, a lot of time investors have the ability, if the loan ever called due, have the ability to refinance and cash out the first seller so that way they don't get foreclosed on and they lose out on their buyers. So dealing with investors is also good. Or like this case study that Stan was showing you guys, the HUD and the contract earlier, where that landlord owns it free and clear. And so because they own it free and clear, we don't need to worry about the due on sale clause, okay? And so that's another way, I guess, to do these types of deals. But the point being is that yes, there are risks in doing these. There are risks in doing these deals with existing loans. This due on sale risk. However, the risk is pretty minimal, and so you decide if it's a risk that you're willing to take or not. Okay, and for us, I mean, it's a risk that we are willing to take to do it because it is minimal. And if it ever happens, I'm sure we can probably negotiate with the seller, the bank too, just like how we'd negotiate for short sales or loan mod. For them to not do that. So.
Now, if I were to tell you that I only wanted to work with free and clear houses, are there like any of those out there?
Of course, there's plenty of those out there, and I'm just amazed at how many of them are out there right now. It seems like the more and more sellers I talk to, the more and more I find sellers that own their properties free and clear, investors that own their properties free and clear. And so yes, there are plenty of them out there. How can you find them? You can certainly buy a list of non-owner occupant properties that perhaps bought their home in the last, I don't know, maybe in the last 3 years even, when the market was booming. and when they bought the home, they did not get a loan on the property. So that so they have a warranty deed, but they have no deed of trust. Um, and you certainly can buy a list like that from InfoUSA or RealQuest, and do direct mail campaign and focus in on those people.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me once that half the houses in the country were owned free and clear.
I don't know what the stat is, but I know the stat is pretty big of how many
Right.
houses, own free and clear.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Question Mark has is, does the recipient of the 8,000 have to have paid a certain amount of taxes or had been in the system for a certain number of years? And I don't
Yeah,
think
the
so.
answer is no, Mark. The answer is
Right.
no. See, you're still thinking in terms of tax credit. Just get that out of your mind. It's a grant, period. And so, so even if it's I think you have to be at least 18. I think
Right.
so. You have to be at least 18 to get it. So as long as you're 18 years old, even if this is your first year filing your taxes, you still can get it.
Okay, well, let's move on. We can skip number 10 because we're not quite to short sales yet.
Right. No, we don't want to talk about number 10.
Yeah, we're not going there yet. For us in the group, the way we market all of these houses to buyers is with bandit signs and Craigslist. I don't want to say a minimal amount of online marketing because we do that quite a bit, but most of our phone calls comes from bandit signs. And we talked about this I think last week, Tim, that I had a student that said, "Hey, listen, I did a lot of work. I put out bandit signs," and my question was, he said I didn't get any phone calls. Didn't go very well. I said, "How many bandit signs did you put out?" He said, "I think I put out like 7 or 8." And I said, "Well, the way we get a lot of phone calls when we did this last weekend, and we've done another weekend since the last one that we've talked about, is we're putting out 200 bandit signs. And when you saturate that area in spring for 8 miles of bandit signs from the house to the freeway, I mean, you're going to get phone calls. So, just know that if you put out bandit signs and you put out 2 or 3, you're going to get, not very many phone calls. But if you're putting out hundreds of signs, we get a lot of calls every day, a lot. So bandit signs work. They really work real well.
Yeah, and don't let putting out 100 or 200 scare you. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, put out some. If at a minimum, at least put out 50 of them. At least 50 of them, and just put them out. When I first got started in real estate investing, the very first deal that I did was a result of my wife and I. My wife and I put out 200 signs, and we put it out on Friday and Monday morning at 7 a.m. I still remember this. 7 a.m. was when the seller called me. I was still sleeping, of course, and the seller didn't leave a message. So I had the phone ring to my cell phone. So I saw a missed call when I woke up, and I called the seller back and left her a message. And long story short, I mean, I bought that house and made a lot of money on that deal, and so it was very worth it for me to put out those signs.
Yeah, let me just show you guys a couple of things. The question is, how do you organize all these? And for me, I'm on Google Voice. Let me unpause my screen. So these are phone calls that have come into my Google Voice, and they've left a message. So that's number one. That's a great way to keep track of these. And the Google Voice will let you know that, like, this one happened 100 minutes ago. This one happened, a day ago. This one's 2 days ago. So these are the ones that we are not getting to. All right, and not means I've got my Google Voice forwarded to a couple of people, but they roll over to that. And then what we're asking is, let me find this piece of paper here that I had. Buyers, there we go. Then what we're looking for is a name, phone number, and an email. What are they looking for? How much down, how much per month, and what kind of a price, and then some room for notes. So that's how we're organizing all of these, and then everybody that is on the phone should be filling these out for every time the phone rings. Okay, so basically all I want is their name, phone number. If I get their email, that's great. And I'd like to know kind of what they're looking for, what area of town, okay? And those are real simple to make up. They're real easy to make up. So if you want to copy the form, just get it real quick. Write it down real fast. All I'm doing is name, phone number, email, looking for what? I'm looking for Katie, 3,000 square feet, and I want to pay what? How much down do you have? How much a month? So I'm using that as a script for some of the other students, and I'm using that as a collection point for me. Okay? So those of you who want to get a copy of that, just do it real fast. It's easy. So basically, all you really need is their name and their phone number. And if you just get their phone number, you'll get the name later.
And you know, the best thing is to always carry around a notebook with you, just a small notebook, and you know, and just write it in your notebook. You know, write in your notebook, and then when you get back, if there's any of them that you need to follow, you can just tear it out of your notebook and put that in your tickler file or into it wherever that you need to follow up with people on. But yeah, always carry around a notebook, okay, a small one, so that way so that way you can take notes when people are calling you.
Right, and Mark's saying he got overwhelmed with 40 of those calls, and you're right. If you don't have a notebook, it gets hard to keep track of them. So just get your little spiral notebook, spend $1 on it. I've got one in the car, and I've got one here on my desk. And whenever the phone rings, the kids know if they pick it up, just write in the notebook. It's not a big deal, and then I can follow up later with that.
Right. When I used to have a sort of like a traveling folder where there's like subfolders within them. But yeah, I everywhere I go in my car, everywhere I go, I always have a real estate contract in there. I have my assignment form in there. I have these basic contracts that I know that I would always need. So that way, whenever I'm on the road and a seller call me or a buyer call me, like I don't need to go back home to do any kind of research. I'll just go directly to them and make the deal happen. And so you might want to do that and put that in your car, so that way you always have these things available for you. Okay.
I never thought, Tim, that I'd be driving and a buyer would call me and say, well, I'd kind of like to see it now. And then I would run out to the house and they would say, okay, this looks good. Can I go ahead and sign the contract? I'd be going, dang, I didn't have a chance to go back home and get that contract.
Right.
Well, you got to leave that stuff in your car because it's going to happen to you. If you're doing any kind of business at all, it's going to happen to you.
Right. Exactly.
Google Voice, Mark, is from a Gmail account, and you apply for a phone number from Gmail, and they will give you a Google phone number. It usually takes, I don't know, a week to 10 days now to get a phone number.
Yeah, just go on Google and search for Google Voice.
Right. Now, Lewis is saying, what do our bandit signs say? And it depends on what we're doing. Most of the bandit signs, we write them with a marker, and we love it when we're doing 200 signs because the entire room smells like narcotics. It's great. So what we say is stuff like desperate, must sell, 322 and a phone number. Must sell now, 322 phone number. That's all we put on there. And we'll do them in Spanish as well, since we have a very large Hispanic population here.
All right.
Okay. Exactly what documents do you need to have in a car? I carry with me, I carry a contract. I carry with me a application, and A is not the word. I carry a few. I've got 2 or 3 contracts in the car, and I've got quite a few applications in the car. And then I carry with me a flex option pretty much all the time, and just kind of think about what you're going to need once you get out there to do a deal. If I was selling a house, what would I need? In Texas, I would need a contract. I would need a seller financing addendum, so I've got those. I would need an application. So that's what I carry with me the most. I've got flex options in there. Some of our students have got every form that we have going right now. So they've got a lot in there. I I usually don't take quite so much with me. I just make sure most of them got like a spiral and that kind of thing. It's what I need mostly.
Yeah, and just start with the basics. If I mean, um, one of the thing I'm gonna you know make sure that I catch myself doing it, and make sure Stan does it too, is that whenever we hear you ask like really basic questions like that, we're gonna try to give you a really basic answer, and the reason why it's a basic answer is just that so that way you start getting in the hang of doing it. So my answer for you of what kind of documents you need to have in your car, for right now, just have some flex options in the car, and that's it.
Right.
And a notebook, right? And a notebook and a seller. Oh yeah, and some seller questionnaire forms. So some seller questionnaire forms, um, some flex options, and a notebook. That's all you need right now. Okay.
And where would they find those, Tim?
All of those are in the members area of dodeals.com. So log into the members area and click on more, and then there's I think it's in the bonus area there. But
Right.
yeah, just do that, okay? And then let me see here.
Tim, this is interesting too because we both have got young children. I've had young children. You've got young children now, and it's like saying to Austin, Austin? Here's what you're going to need to run a marathon. But he's not ready to run a marathon yet, right?
Right.
So, yeah. See, you and I have been doing this for a little while. You way longer than me, and it's like, okay, you need this, and go run the marathon. It's like, Austin, just let's just learn how to not fall down for a while. That'll be better.
Right. Austin lately, he keep on taking off his pants, because he's potty trained now.
Oh my gosh.
And every time he uses the restroom, he never puts his pants back on. So for us now, it's like just put your pants on first. The point being is that if you haven't even started and this is nothing against you, Mark. You asked what does the application look like. If you haven't even started to market the property for a buyer yet, don't even worry about what the application looks like. It's in the members area, but don't even worry about what it looks like for now. And once you have a buyer interested, then let us know, and we'll help you with that. But it is in the members area for you to get access to that. It's really simple. It asks the buyers for the financial stuff and employment things. And so the point being is this, that and just like we mentioned at the beginning of this call, is that just keep it as simple as possible, and keep it as simple as possible, and start start to take baby steps. Don't worry about trying to run right now. Don't worry about getting on the treadmill. Don't worry about running a marathon. Just take baby steps right now. Just know that Stan and I are here to help you, and we're gonna help you do what it takes for you to succeed. But however, we can't take those baby steps for you. Okay, I've been thinking a lot about that. It's like, gosh, I wonder if there's a way where it's like the Matrix, right? Where I can just plug a plug behind your neck and transfer all of this information and experience to you, and download all of these experience to you, and so that way you don't need to do anything, and you'll be able to acquire the knowledge that you need. Well, folks, we're not in the Matrix. We're not. We're not a software, and so I can't do that. And so so it is. Stan and I are reliant on you to take action and do the baby steps, so that way, we didn't know how to teach you to run after you have already learned how to walk.
So that's going to be the new email now, Tim. It's going to be, I need to know about this, this, and this, and I'm going to email back and say, I'm going to give you the Austin answer. Do you have your pants on yet? And then if they say yes, they have their pants on, then we'll go for the next thing.
That is funny. But
Really?
all right, folks. Well, before we wrap up for this call, is there any? Oh yeah, there was a question that that I think we missed about the funding, the day funding. Don't worry about that for now. Whoever that was asking about that. If you don't know what that is, just don't worry about it. Just know that you don't need it right now, and if you did need it, that will help you to will help you when you do need it. So don't worry about the transactional funding, because most of the deals that you do will not require it. Okay. So to wrap up this call, is there any other basic questions that has been lingering in your mind, and it has been holding you back from taking action, holding you back from making calls to sellers, even though that's the first step to playing matchmaking? There's nobody for us to matchmake if we don't if we don't have a person to that want to be matchmake. And so.
Hey Tim, is the hotline going to be open next week or during the holidays?
It's going to be open only until tomorrow, and then my whole staff is off on Thursday and Friday, and then we'll reopen again next Monday. Okay, and so Thursday and Fridays are the only 2 days that the hotline won't be available, but next week it will be available. Okay.
So if they've got a really good deal, how do they get a hold of us? Just go through the hotline?
Yeah, just go through the hotline. The chance of you doing well, I wouldn't say that, but if you do deals, happen to do deals on Christmas, I don't know. That's a really good question, because I don't think I'm even gonna check my email on Christmas. I doubt you're gonna have an emergency. I doubt you're gonna have an emergency, but but if you do, okay, if you do have an emergency, you can shoot me an email to tim@timmai.com, and I'll just remember to check in like a couple of times a day or something like that. But I doubt you're gonna have an emergency. So, yeah, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Just know that step number 1 is contact sellers. Step number 2 is getting the flex option sign, and step number 3 is market that property to sell it. That's it. Okay, that's all you need to worry about right now. Call the seller, get seller questionnaire forms filled out. 2, get sellers to sign flex option. 3, market the properties for sale. How do you market the properties for sale? You post it on websites like Craigslist, and you put out bandit signs. So there you have it. I guess that's real estate investing 101, Stan.
Yeah, you did that in like 30 seconds. We spent an hour and a half at this. Why didn't you do that at the beginning?
I should have.
Yeah. You would have been out of here a long time ago.
I know.
These are recorded. Where do they find these? I know they're recorded.
Where are these recorded? They're in the Due Deals University area. And so when you log into the members area, click on Due Deals University, and all of the replays are in there. And Jersham, can you help them to point them to where it is, so that way they know how to listen to these replays? Okay. Mark said, I feel I asked a bunch of dumb questions, and it will be okay. And like I said, Mark, the only dumb questions are the questions that are not asked, and you walk away from this webinar still don't know the answer to them. That's the only dumb question. That's actually, dumb for thinking about that question and not asking. And so there's no such thing as a dumb question.
And the flex options, they can find those on Do Deals as well, right?
Right, dodeals.com, members area, click on more, and then I think it's under bonuses. So it should, yeah, it's in there. We're working on to have better layouts of all of the contracts and forms. So there's going to be a category in the members area called contracts and form here pretty soon. So that way you guys know exactly where to get that. Okay. Any other questions? Let them all out. Whatever simple questions you think is simple, just let it out. Judy asked, should we call sellers on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day? Well, I guess the question is, how hungry are you? If I'm hungry, I want to make a deal work. I want to get that money. Then the answer is yes. I would call them on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And of course, when you call them, make sure you wish them a Merry Christmas first before you start talking business. Just say, hi, I'm calling about your house for sale, and hi, I'm calling because I noticed you have a house you have for sale. I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and and let you know that yes, even though it's Christmas, I'm here to help you to get this property off of off your back if that will give you a Merry Christmas. And so if you want to talk about your property today, I'm here. I can talk to you about that. And so come from that approach, okay? So come from the approach that you are calling to wish them a Merry Christmas, and that if selling this house is going to give them a merrier Christmas and a happier New Year, then you are their knight in shining armor. So take it from that approach. How's that, Stan?
I think that's perfect. That and emails are perfect.
Right. When think about you. Okay. Well, here's a really good way to ask that. Judy, you have a house that you're trying to sell. Do you mind if a buyer calls you on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day about your house for sale? So if you don't mind that a buyer contacts you on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, then no, the seller won't mind. And Judy said, just so that way everybody knows, Judy said, I would love it. So there you have it. That is coming from a seller's perspective. So I'm not making it up. And any other questions, y'all, before we let you go? I mean, these are really basic questions. So, if you don't ask any more questions, Stan and I are going to assume that that from now on we never ever have to answer your basic questions again. If you do ask them, we're going to say too bad.
I say I'm going to ask if they have their pants on first. I know what this means now.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being on this call, for joining us on this call. Mark said we didn't answer his last two questions. Did we miss somebody?
Let me go backwards.
You go back while I'm telling them bye.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for being on this call and joining us on this call and wishing us a Merry Christmas. And from I guess this is from my family, and Stan will share from his family. But from my family, from my wife Frances, Tyler, Austin, and myself, we want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas and a super duper prosperous New Year. Okay.
Yeah, Mark's asking, is there a difference between the flex option and the assignment contract? The answer is yes, there's a difference. And you can find both of those on dodeals.com.
Right. They are different. However, you don't need to know the difference right now. You just need to know that the flex option is what you're going to use right now.
Right.
Okay? So that's all you need to know.
Right. Everything's on due deals. Everything is on due deals.
Right. And then was there a second question, or is that it? He said
Well, the other one was, where's the flex option? And it's also on due deals.
Okay, got it. Okay. And yeah, Julio told me to remind you guys to join us on the Happy Hour TV tomorrow. You got to do that, okay? Join us on the Happy Hour TV tomorrow. We're going to be on there, I'm going to be on there for Christmas Eve, for Christmas Day, for New Year Day. Every single day I'm going to be on there. So you got to join me because the show is for you. The show is for your benefit, not mine. And so make sure you get on there, okay? And you can win a flex option to be on just to be on the show as well. When every single day that we've been doing, and this is gonna go on until the day of Christmas Day, that we pick one winner. We pick one winner to win the free deal of the day, where we give you a signed flex option, and all you have to do is market that property for sale. And whatever you sell on that, whatever money you make on that property, you get to keep 100% of that. And so, be on the show, okay? Be on the show. It's kind of crazy for you not to be on the show, so be on the show.
Yeah, dude, I didn't know you were doing that. I'm coming tomorrow.
All right, so Stan, it's your turn to.
Well, I just appreciate the time that you guys spend with us. I know that there's so much other things going on in the world. So from my family, I've got 2 boys and a wife and an 88-year-old mother-in-law. I just hope you have the warmest Christmas ever, and that you feel the blessings of God, and that you come through the new year and just have the most prosperous year you've ever had. So Merry Christmas to all of you, and we really, really hope that you come back and see us again next week.
Yes. Oh, and if any of you are in Houston, my wife and I are volunteering to feed the homeless again at the Georgia Brown on Christmas Eve. And so you're more than welcome to join us there, okay? So if you're in Houston, come on out. Or if you're nearby Houston, drive down, all right? Join us. We'll have a blast.
Yeah,
all right.
My son's playing at church, so you guys come and we'll take you to church.
Awesome.
Either way, yep. Love to have you.
All right, everybody. Have an awesome one. Merry Christmas. And I'll see you guys on the Happy Hour TV. All right, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.